Now we've got Live versus Delta. Live on the left, Delta on the right. Live tends to use a variety of forms, and Live is building a multicolor transition. He's got a 2 double on the blue, different options. Delta's going to send a 3 chain. Live is going to counter this with a tough to read chain, and it's going to connect to his main chain actually. Delta's building up, and Delta looks to have the counter if he can get a red starter. And he does get a red starter. And actually, Live's chain was pretty strong. I don't know if Delta is going to have enough here. It is 8 double, and it's just barely enough. But Live's got a nice second chain ready. Going to clear a whole bunch. And it's a 7 chain second chain. And Live wins with the second chain. Looked like Live sent his main chain too early and Delta was going to win by extending. But it turned out Delta wasn't able to extend by enough and Live was able to win with the second chain. Delta might have had it if he could have built a big second chain of his own, but he wasn't able to do it. Delta's got a 3 or 4 chain set up. Live's got a counter set. He's got a 2 double, and he has a 4 chain left behind. But Delta sees this and counters it all with a 7 chain. No, 6 chain, actually. Live's built up, and now he's just going to send his main chain. It's a lot to use in the counter for Delta, so Delta's going to have a more of a challenge to try to build up and counter this. He needs greens. He needs one more green. He gets the starter, but it still might not be enough. Live had a really big chain. And we're going to have to see if Delta has enough. The tell is going to work perfectly. And Delta has an all clear. And Delta has enough. Live's got a second chain going. And it's not going to be good enough. Delta made a perfect chain there all the way to an all clear. And he gets the win with it. We're now tied at 1. Delta is doing his left side GTR. Live is doing a left side transition as well. Delta got his chain set up pretty well. Live is looking to attack probably in the middle. Sends a 2 chain. Delta counters with a 4 chain. Live doesn't want to go with his main chain, but now he's connected a big chain. And it's going to stop at 4, but he doesn't have much of a form left over. Delta's sending his main chain. The yellow's cut in the tail, but it becomes an 8 chain. Live can't counter the 8 chain. And Delta is now up 2-1. They're both doing left side GTR, identical opening, but now they've made a difference. 2 double setup from Delta on the yellows, and he doesn't send it just yet. It's still there though. Live sends a 3 double. Delta counters with a 2 double 3 chain, and it's pretty close in power. But the left side gets covered for Delta, so he has to dig a little bit. They both send singles. The single garbage falls on the blue for Delta, and now he's in trouble. He can't start the blues, but he does get to the greens in time. Live is going into his main chain, and it's going to be a multi-match at the end. Delta is going to have to set off a bigger chain. It looks like he can do it if he can set his chain off how he wants, and he might have done it. And the blues and reds disappear at the same time. And the tell might not be strong enough actually. It's a 12 chain and it's actually just barely strong enough, but Live's got a second chain. And Delta needs a second chain of his own and he's got one too. Actually, Delta's second chain is very good. And Live now needs a third chain. He sets off a third chain and the third chain is very good from Live. Clears everything he could. Delta now receives a lot of garbage, but he hasn't filled up yet. Live has no Puyo for a follow-up attack, and the yellow gets covered, so he can't start it. He's going to need to clear the garbage or clear the yellows on the bottom. Delta doesn't have much space though, and he's going to try to set off a chain, and actually it's going to be a long chain. It's a 5-chain from Delta, but Live has a 5-chain as well. This has been a crazy match. It's a 4-chain from Delta now, countered by a 4-chain from Live. Delta's making a counter to that. We're now well into margin time. It's 2x margin time. Delta's got a 3-chain. Live has to respond. No, he's going to receive the garbage. And it's still anyone's game. It's crazy how it hasn't been decided yet. Delta's got a chain on the left side with the yellows. But Live's got a chain going. That's a 5-chain. Delta counters with a 4-chain, 5, 6-chain actually. And that might be it. No, Live's got another chain. That's gonna counter. Delta's got a 3-chain. How is it not over? Finally, Delta gets the win. 2.69x margin. What a crazy match that was. But now it's just 1-3 in overall score. It's a pretty crazy round, but it was only 1 point. Single from Delta this time. Live's got his main chain connected on the blues. But he cuts it, and he's got a 2-double, 2-triple on the blues now. And the conversion into a 2-triple gets him the win. Delta might have looked and thought Live just had his main chain there, but Live managed to convert it into a 2-triple instead. Delta's going with the left side transition, and Live's going with right side GTR. Live set up pretty defensively. Can also use it to attack if he wants. Delta sends a single. Live's connected his main chain. He's going to send a 2-chain on the right though. And it's going to get countered by a 2-chain. Delta gets a little garbage, but it's not a problem yet. Oh, Live's attacking with a 3-chain. This might win the round. Delta's forced to play an awkward chain that kind of messes up his form. And Live gets to send his main chain. Live's main chain isn't that big, but Delta did have to mess up his form a lot. And Delta does start his chain, but it doesn't quite connect. Oh no, it does connect to the tail. It's not going to be enough though. You need a little bit more to disappear first on the left side to get the power, or you need a bigger tail. It's now tied at 3. Identical openings from both players, still identical. Still identical. Finally, the first difference happened. 2-double setup from Delta, and he sends it. Live's got counter options available, makes a big 2-chain. It was going to depend on what colors he got as to what counters he could use, but he had a lot of counters he could make for any colors. Live is now sending his main chain. Delta might have committed to an attack, and now he can't quite connect his main chain properly, but he finds a way to start it anyway, gets the exact color and starts a big chain, and the tail is going to work very well, and it should be a counter. It's a counter by a lot. Live needs a huge second chain, and he's going to set one off, but it doesn't look like there's enough there, even if it all disappeared, and it's not enough. And Delta takes the lead, and it's now 3-4. Again, identical openings, but they've changed just a tiny bit. Some attack options are available for Live and for Delta. Live's got a big 2-double. Delta's going to counter it with a 4-chain actually. And that's going to get countered by a 4-chain, but Delta's probably going to go into his main chain if he draws a green. And he does send his main chain. Leve's used most of Puyo on his field, so he's going to have to extend a lot. And he can't quite do it. If he had started the chain with the double purples, it might have been enough actually, because Delta didn't have much of a towel and there were a lot of Puyo left over on his field. But Leve may not have noticed, or it might not have been enough anyway. Left side GTR from Delta and left side long GTR from Live. Live could set up a 2 double, and he does. But Delta has a big 2 double of his own. Live sends a small 2 chain first to force Delta to react with a 5 chain. Now Live can build up to counter the 5 chain, but that's not an easy task. He's only able to make a 3 double. They were both kind of building up big attacks, and Live tried to force Delta to play a big attack first so Live could have time to counter it. And he succeeded in doing that, but Delta's counter was good and Live wasn't able to build the counter to it in time. Live's got a right side transition and Delta's got left side GTR. Single from Live, it's going to get countered by a 3 chain, but that's going to get countered by a 2 double. And Delta actually gets 2 lines of garbage. Impressive that that 2 double was that much stronger than the 3 chain. But now Delta digs with the 3 chain, and Live gets some garbage. That garbage blocks off the right side for Delta, and he has to use the left side. Live is sending a 5 chain to counter the 3 chain from Delta. Delta's got his main chain off though. Live's got to set off his main chain in a hurry. And he's not going to be able to do it. And Delta comes out ahead. 3-7 is the score now. Delta's on a bit of a win streak. Delta could be setting up an attack. He's got a lot of options. Live hasn't connected his main chain though and can counter pretty easily. And Live's got a 5 chain counter. Delta has his main chain going. Live's got a lot of time to extend. It's a pretty tough for him to do it with, but he's now got it all connected. He needs a green on the left though, and then a red starter. And he is going to start his chain. We'll have to see if it's going to be enough. It's going to connect to the greens in the tell. And it's going to be close, and it's going to be enough, but it's in the range where Delta can counter it with a second chain. And Delta's got a great second chain there. It's a 7 double. And Live doesn't have a second chain to counter that. And Delta does get the win. Live didn't win the first chain battle convincingly enough, and so Delta was able to take it with the second chain. All clear start this time, and they both get it with identical piece placements. Live clears the bonus really quickly, but Delta clears the bonus to counter. Live is setting up a bit of an unusual chain. Looks like he can't really build a tell if it's a left side transition chain. Delta clears a single and it actually covers the yellows for Live, and Live probably was looking to clear him, but he couldn't. Live now just sends what he has. A lot of it disappears at the same time. Delta's tell breaks at the same time too, though, and Live's chain actually was more powerful, so Live gets the win. 4-8 now. Two chain from Live. Delta's just going to send his main chain. And the tail connects to the purples. Leve's got a lot of time. He needs a yellow to start it. And he's got the starter, and he's got a big multi-chain. And it's going to be more than enough. Almost an all clear. Delta's not going to have time for a second chain. And Leve gets another point. 5 to 8 now. Delta's pretty consistently doing left side GTR. Leve's mixing it up some. Delta's got a 3-chain multicolor transition setup. Can make a 2 double, can make a 4-chain, a lot of options there. Leve's going to send a big 2-chain and Delta's not drawing reds. And the yellow starter gets covered too. And even though Delta had quite a bit of options, a lot of them used the reds and he couldn't draw what he needed for any of them when he needed it. They've both got left side GTR this time. Leve's got a 2-chain or a 2 double setup, but he connects his main chain. Delta's got a 3-chain setup. Delta clears a single, countered by a single. Now Delta clears a 2-chain and Leve counters with another single. Leve's running out of space. Delta clears another single and gets countered by a single. Delta just got his main chain connected, I think. Leve's got his main chain connected. They both look like very big main chains. Oh no, Delta's chain cuts. Unfortunate, because Delta had a really solid chain there, and I don't know if it would have won, though, because Leve had a 15 chain. With the cut, Delta, though, loses for sure. And Leve's won a few in a row now, and it's 7 to 8. They've both got left side GTR. Leve's going into a multicolor transition. Delta's got a 2-chain, but he sends a big single instead. Leve's got a 2-chain, 2 double. Delta's going to counter with a 3 double. Leve's going to play a 4, no, another 3 double. Delta's got a 2-chain to counter it, but he's going to get some garbage. And Leve's following up with a 3-chain. Delta has a counter on the purples for a 3-chain, but now his form is kind of messed up. He can't really finish the GTR shape properly. So he's got a tough time to make a big chain. Leve attacks with a big 3-chain, but Delta's got a counter to that with a 3 double. Leve now sends his main chain. Delta might be able to find a way to make a bigger chain, and he's found a way to connect the GTR shape. It was very tricky, but he got it connected, and it's going to be enough to counter. But Leve hasn't filled up, and he's built tall. He's still got space to work with, and Puyo there. Delta's got a better setup, though. Now Leve's found a dig to a 4-chain. Delta's starting a bigger chain, though. And Leve needs another chain. It looks like he's got a purple starter, but he can't draw the purples. And Delta finally gets the win. Once again, we have left side GTR from Delta. It's left side long GTR from Leve. And he's got a 2 double set up and he sends it. But Delta makes a bigger 2 double. You could see the 2 double coming, and he had time to add an extra Puyo into his 2 double to make it a lot more powerful. So now Delta has the advantage. Leve is sending a small 2-chain. Delta's got a tall blue starter, so he can receive some garbage and then start his main chain. Leve's going to send that garbage with a 2 double. Delta's going to wait and receive it and start with the blues. And Delta's got his main chain going. The tail is really impressive. Leve's going to need a big chain to counter it. Leve's starting his main chain. Look at how good Delta's tail was. That it becomes a 13 chain. And Leve Live needs a tell that's that good. It's an 11 chain. It's a very good tell, but it's not good enough. And Delta gets the win. 3-point lead for Delta now, and it's 7-10. If he's got a 2-chain set up, but he probably won't send it. He now has a 2-double though, and he's probably going to send that, but he covers it. He wasn't drawing a red fast enough. Now he's connected a 4-chain, but Delta has a counter to that with a 3-double 4-chain. Live has to do something, and Live makes a 4-chain again. Delta's probably going to connect a huge single, actually, and somehow that gives Delta the advantage. Quite an unusual play, but it works out really well for Delta. Live now makes a 2-chain, but it's going to get countered by a 3-chain. Delta's slowly increasing his advantage, but Live makes a 2-double. Delta's forced to send his main chain, but Live doesn't have much left over to work with. It's going to be tough to send a bigger chain, but Live actually found a way to do it. It's a bigger 6-chain, and Live does get the win. It would have been tough for someone like me, I should say. For Live, it was no problem there. Score is now 8-10. Live's got a left side transition. Delta's got left side GTR. Live could be setting up a 2-double. Instead, he clears a big single. And then another big single. And then a 2-chain. Oh, actually a 3-chain. Delta's yellows got covered, and everything else gets covered. And Live gets the win. I wonder if Live saw that Delta's yellows were covered, so he couldn't connect his chain. They both got left side transitions again. Delta's looking for a multicolor transition. And he's set up pretty defensively. Sends a single for now, and Live counters it. It would have been dangerous to receive a single there. Now Delta's got a 4-chain going, and Live just sends his main chain. The tell looks very strong. There might be a red in the ghost row that connects down to. Actually, the purples break early for Live. It's still a very strong tell, and it's a 12-chain. I don't know if Delta will have enough. Delta's tell is pretty good too. Oh, Delta's tell is very good. It's a 13-chain, and it's barely enough, but Live's got his 2nd-chain there. Live needed the 2nd-chain because he built tall in the middle, and he would have filled up if he received any garbage. And Live does win it with the 2nd-chain. Delta actually had a counter, and if he drew a red, he could start it, and it might have been enough, but he didn't draw a red. So we're now tied at 10. Both players have been building, I'd say, powerfully, where they have a lot of options, and then occasionally one person will send something, and then they each counter each other for a while. Delta's got a 3-chain set up. Live's got a 3 or 4-chain. No, he's connected his main chain. They both clear singles. Another single from Live, but it's a 4-chain from Delta. Live, the blues are going to cut actually, so his main chain isn't going to be that big. Oh, wait. Yeah, the blues do cut. Actually, his chain is still pretty big, though. And Delta can't start his main chain in time. So Live does get the win, and it's 11-10 now. Live's got a big 2-triple. 2-triple on the purple in the middle, but he didn't send it. Actually, I thought he was going to send that one, but he chose not to. Now he's got another 2-triple on the greens, but he doesn't send it. Delta sends a small 2-chain, but Live has no counter to that one. And now Delta's gonna go with his main chain. Livy has to convert all of his attacking options into a main chain somehow, and I don't know if he can do it. And he's gonna try. The yellows are gonna cut though, and nothing is gonna connect to the right side. Livy had a whole bunch of powerful attacks set up, and he didn't send any of them, and then Delta just sent his main chain, and Livy couldn't convert them into a main chain of his own. All clear match this time. They both build identically on the right side, and it's going to be a follow-up all clear. Livy doesn't take it, actually, and Livy's going to send a bigger chain, but he's not going to get the all clear bonus the second time. Still, Delta gets a red rock of garbage, so it's essentially the same as an all clear bonus, and now Livy gets another all clear. So now Livy's going to have an extra bonus, but Delta does have a lot of Puyo to work with. And Delta makes a 3 chain. Livy counters with the bonus. It's actually a 4 chain from Delta. And Livy's got a yellow starter. He's going to send it now. And it's a 4 chain from Livy. Countered by a 6 chain from Delta. It's a strong 6 chain in this situation. Livy can't beat it. And Delta gets the win. It was an interesting decision there from Livy to not take the second all clear. He could have easily gotten it, but he chose not to get it to try to make a bigger chain. And in the end, it was pretty even, so it wasn't really better or worse. They both look like they're setting up pretty defensively. Livy sends a 3 chain, but Delta's got a solid 3 double, and Livy's got a 3 double to counter that. Now Delta's got a 3 chain, and Livy goes straight into his main chain. Delta's got time to extend. He just needs a green starter. He's extended on the tail and on the front, and he got the green starter, and Delta should be coming out ahead here. Livy's not going to be able to build a second chain that's big enough in time. Score is now 11-13. They both play identically now. No difference yet. Finally, the first difference happens. Delta's got an easier form for attacking and defending, but Livy's not really vulnerable. Livy's going to send a 2 double. It's going to get countered by a 4 chain. Livy has a lot of options to counter that 4 chain. He makes a 2 double, and it comes out about even. Delta's clearing a 4 chain. Livy's going to counter with a 4 double, and Delta's in trouble. He has to respond with something, and even then he's going to be at a disadvantage. He uses his main chain. Livy just needs one more red. Just one more red. Just one more red. And he adds in the purple too. And actually he needs another red too, because now the reds don't connect, and even though Livy would have had a much bigger chain, it didn't all connect, and Delta does get the win. That was a situation where I'd say Livy really should have won it, and he kind of just messed up and didn't end up winning. Delta's got his nice multicolor transition. Livy isn't really set up defensively, but Delta's not really attacking. Big single from Livy, but gets countered. 4 chain from Delta. Livy's going into his main chain. Hard. Yeah, the tail's actually going to work perfectly, and it's almost an all clear. Now, Delta's got a nice chain of his own, though. Livy had a big 12 double. Delta's got like a 13-14 chain. It's a 14 chain, and it's close in power, actually. And it was very close. Live just needed his double greens, and he would have had a second chain that would have countered, but he didn't draw it fast enough. Both players had some really big chains there, and Delta was just barely ahead. Live could have won it with a second chain. He just didn't draw it. Two chain, big single from Delta. It's going to send over two lines. It looked like it was going to be a two chain, but he made a big single. And Live's able to dig with the three chain. Live's built tall to receive the garbage and counter with a two double. Live, I must have Live. Live's got his main chain going. Delta's also got his main chain going. And it might be close. Delta has a longer chain. The power was pretty close though, but Live didn't have a second chain in time. And now it's 11-16. Live has a two double setup on the green, but he covers that. Delta clears the single and Live counters with the three chain, but that gets countered by a bigger three chain. And Live has to receive the garbage. He's got blues to dig with the three chain though. And that's going to get countered by a massive two chain, and Live finds a four chain. That was hard to see, but Live was able to make a four chain out of that situation and take the advantage, I'd say. It's not decided though. Delta's got a chain. It's only a two chain. Live is gonna have to make a two chain. Delta can't draw. Oh, he barely draws the yellow just in time for a three triple. Live can't quite connect enough to counter, and Delta gets the win in the end. It's now 11-17. All clear, start again. No one's cleared the bonus yet, and finally they both cleared at the same time. So they both built up tall, but now they're going to have to use the left side to extend their chain. It looks tough for both players. Delta's going to send a three chain. Live spins the piece over, but it's only a two chain. Live is in trouble here, and he can't do anything, and he fills up. Feels like the matches have been really close, but Live has just been just barely losing in some way, and Delta's now at a 7-point lead. Delta's building a multicolor transition, and he's got a four chain on the blue. He's extending with the reds, though. Live clears the single, but doesn't cover the reds. It would have been really dangerous for Delta if the reds got covered in the middle. Delta sends a big chain, but Live sends his main chain. Live's got a really solid main chain there. Probably about 14 or 15. It is 14 from Live. Delta's trying to go as big as he can. And he's got the purple in the right column. The yellows on the tail get cut though, so that's going to cost him some power. And he only has a 13 chain because of it, and it's not going to be enough. Live had a follow-up chain too that Delta would have had to beat. So Live gets a point back, and it's 12-18. Big two double from Live in the opening. Delta found a way to make a three chain though. But still, it wasn't enough to counter the 2 double, and Live has a pretty big advantage. He's going to follow up with the forward chain. Delta's going to counter with a 3 double forward chain. So Delta might have taken an advantage now. Live doesn't get much garbage, so it's still tough to say who's winning. Live's got a bit of a tough form. The blues are at risk of breaking in the 4th and 5th column. Live's going to send a 2 chain. Delta's going to counter with his main chain. Live needs a big chain, and he has to be careful about breaking it. And Live can't get it off. It's another win for Delta. 12-19 now. Live is going with right side GTR. Delta's got left side GTR. And Delta's going into the second transition already. He's got it in place. Live sends a single. Delta's going for a 2 double with the reds. Live sends a bigger 2 double in advance though, and Delta still gets garbage. Live is now following up, but Delta's got his second transition starter to make a 5 chain. Live is going to send his main chain. Delta just needs to get his chain off to win. And he's going to get it off, and he's probably going to win with it. It was a 7 chain from Live. And it's actually only a 7 chain from Delta, but still, Delta is going to get the win with it. Live just hasn't been able to find wins recently, and he's really falling behind now. Live's got a lot of attack options, sends a 3 double. Delta's at a loss for how to counter it, and he just goes into his main chain. Live can extend and win. He's got a red starter. He's got a red starter, but he needs a red. And it's a devil's starter. And the yellow gets cleared, but actually disappears after, but then it gets cleared again. It looked like Live, the yellow broke, but then it looked like the yellow would reconnect in a different way that was even stronger, but then it didn't work out. A lot of blues in this opening make it tough to build, and they both clear them for now. Delta's setting up defensively. And now he might send a 2 double with the purples, and he does. Live clears a single, but he does manage to draw the blues and make his main chain actually. But Delta's can send off a bigger main chain maybe. Did he get it? It's a very complicated multicolor transition, but he's got it to connect. He's going to need a tell that's strong enough though. Live's also building a second chain. Delta gets the counter by a lot, but Live's got a second chain. It's going to need to be perfect pretty much, and it's not quite good enough. It was a very good second chain, just not good enough. And once again, Delta gets another win, and now it's a 10-point lead for Delta. Live has a 2 chain set up, but it's not that strong. Live instead makes it a 2 double, and Delta counters with a big 2 chain. Delta ends up being stronger. Delta now sends his main chain, but the tell is not going to connect. Live is just going to counter with his main chain, and Live's chain is going to be better than Delta's. It might have been a misdrop from Delta because it just didn't look like a winning play, and it didn't look like a play that he would normally make. So off of what might have been a mistake from Delta, Live gets a win on a round. Still, it's a 9-point lead for Delta. Delta's been doing a very good job of consistently building stable forms that he can defend with or attack with if he chooses to. If he's got a 5 chain, Delta may not be prepared to counter a 5 chain. Oh no, actually he's prepared to counter a 5 chain with a 5 double, but he has used a lot of Puyo. Live isn't able to start his main chain though. So even though Live sent a strange attack that was really big, Delta was still able to counter that one. Oh, it's going to be an all clear for Live. And Delta's not going to get the second all clear. So Live now has an advantage with the bonus. Delta's going to try to receive it and dig, but it's tough to do. He's got no space to work with. And a follow-up attack from Live should do it. Delta hasn't filled up yet. Live's still going with the follow-ups, and Live does close it out. 14-23. Still hasn't felt like Live has really outplayed Delta there. It's kind of like Live got a win because he was lucky to get an all clear. So just might be rough mentally for Live just because he's not really getting a lot of wins. Ooh, that single was almost dangerous, but Live was able to draw the piece in time to start his main chain. Delta's going to have to build a bigger main chain to counter it. He's looking for greens, I think, but he's not getting any greens. He finally gets the greens, but he can't start it because it's a blue-yellow. Another devil's piece for Delta. And even if he started, I wasn't able to see if his chain would have been good enough to win. If he's got a 2 double set, but he covers it immediately. Delta's just building stably, but he barely draws the purple in time. It looked like he wasn't going to get it, but he does get it. And Live is going to send his main chain, it looks like. Might be about 12. Delta needs reds. He needs reds. There's a double red, and then he needs a purple starter. And he gets it all in place. It's actually a 13 chain from Live. Delta's got a nice multi-color transition and a pretty good tell. It might be close. It is a 13 chain from Delta, and it is close. Live is going to need a second chain, and he's got one. And it barely counters everything. So it's still a very even situation. Livy's got a pretty nice form, but Delta has an opportunity to attack. The longer it goes, though, the more chance Livy has to build a bigger chain that Delta can't beat. Delta now makes a 4 chain, but Livy's got an all clear, and this looks like a chain that Delta can't beat. It's a 10 chain from Livy. Delta can't beat it. Livy's starting to make a comeback now and starting to get some good wins. And it's 16-23. Yayori from Livy. Delta's making a second transition really early. And he has a 2 double setup with it. And he sends the 2 double. Livy draws the exact piece to make a bigger main chain. Delta's going to need to extend and set up his main chain to win. Livy's got a 9 chain. Delta draws the blue at the last second. And Delta's chain is connected and it looks to be strong enough. Livy's going to have a lot of time to build a second chain though, and Livy is good at building second chains generally. But he wasn't able to do it this time though. So it's now 16-24. It's not GTR this time from Delta, but still a left side transition. Oh, Live's attacking with the 3 double. Delta's countering with his main chain. Oh no, there's no blue, so it's gonna stop quick. Live sees that it's gonna stop and he sets off his main chain, but Delta still has the chance to win by extending. And Delta thinks he's got enough and starts his main chain. Live at 8. Delta does have enough. The greens and the reds are going to connect, so it's a very strong tell. And Delta gets the win. So it looked like Live might be getting a bit of the momentum back, but now Delta's taking it back, and it's a 9-point lead for Delta. Pretty similar forms for both players this time. Live has an easy 2 double to set up. Delta also had a 2 double, but he covered it. And Live now makes his 2 double, but Delta finds a different 2 double to counter. Live now makes it 3 chain. Delta can't draw the yellow he wants. He had some ways to make a 4 chain counter, but he couldn't draw the right colors. He does dig with the 3 chain though. Live can't draw a blue, and he does draw purples now, though, to dig with the 2 chain. It's going to get countered by a bigger 2 chain, though, but he draws another purple to start a 4 chain. Delta has to respond, and he's got a 3 chain, 3 double, and no, it's actually a 6 chain. Tough to read, but it became a 6 chain, and now Live was able to set off a big chain. That's a 6 double, and it gets the win. Tough match there, but Live clinches it out, and the score is now 17-25. Two chain from Delta. Live's got counters available, and he finds 1 2 chain and uses that one. Single from Delta. Live's got a 3 double. Delta can't counter it. Looked like he had some options available, but couldn't draw what he wanted. So it's now 18-25. Live is going with the right side yo-yo. Live sends a 2 double, and Delta's going to counter with his main chain. He probably didn't want to connect it, but there wasn't anything he can do. But he's got an all clear, so that's a lot of power. It's a lot of power because every Puyo on his field got cleared. So Live's going to have to do something similar to that. Live's not going to be able to clear the blues, but he does get a counter. Delta's got a green yellow, though. Oh, he doesn't need the yellow, actually. It's better for him to not use it and make the chain that way. And he's got a counter 7 chain. Live needs a second chain. Oh, this second chain is pretty good. Clears just about everything, but it's still not good enough. And Delta gets the win. It was a really good counter setup from Delta there. So he's able to receive the garbage and then start a counter chain. And that got him the win. Live is going with the left side transition. A lot of yellows in this round. Live is going to use them to clear a big single, and Delta gets a bunch of garbage. Delta's setting up a 3 chain, or a 4 chain, or a 3 double, or around there. It is going to be a big 3 chain and then a 4 chain. Oh no, not the 4th chain. And either way, Live wasn't able to counter what Delta sent. It felt like a situation where Live might be able to predict it because Delta was kind of stuck into sending like a 3 or 4 chain. And Live might have been able to counter it, but he wasn't able to do it this time. Big single from Delta, and it covers the yellow starter from Live. and now a follow-up 2-chain. Live draws the exact piece to make a 2-chain himself, though, and another 4-chain follow-up. And Delta draws a 4 double counter. Live has to do something. I don't know what he can do, though. He can't do anything in time, and Delta's probably going to win here. And Delta does get the win. It feels like just overall strong play from Delta. He's able to make big chains when he has to, and he's able to counter and attack sometimes too. Oh, really big single from Live in the opening, and it sends over 2 lines. Delta's entire form gets covered, and now Live is going to get an all clear, and Delta can't do anything. Live is going to win with the bonus. And impressive surprise attack there from Live to get the win. Live is going with Persia this time. Quite an exotic form. Live sends a 2 double on the top. It's going to get countered by a 2-chain, and the 2-chain is going to be bigger, just by a little bit. Maybe he's got his main chain connected on the purples on the left. Delta's going with a huge multicolor transition. I can't follow if all the colors are in. And all the colors actually are in if the yellows don't cut. And the yellows don't cut. Lives setting off his Persia. Delta has a 13 chain and the reds cut for Live. And it cuts onto the backside, but it's not going to be enough. I wanted to see the Persia connect and see if Live could win with the Persia, but it didn't connect all the way down to the bottom. Live could set up a 2 double, but he decided not to. He could set it up on top, though. And he clears the single instead. Delta had a 4-chain waiting. They both sent 2 chains. And now Delta sends a 5-chain. Live is going to counter with his main chain. No, it's not his main chain because there's no yellow. It's a 5-chain counter and Delta has to respond. Delta sees it stops and sets off his main chain, but it's very fast. It's a 5 double. Live is able to set off his chain in time, and Live does have more. Delta's going to need a 2nd chain. And Delta's not able to get off a 2nd chain in time. Live wins 1 to get to 20, but Delta's at 29. Delta sends a 2-chain and Live is going to counter with a 4-chain. Delta doesn't have a follow-up, but he finds a 3-chain. But Live is at a pretty big advantage here. Live makes a single though, and that might have been a mistake. Delta's able to make a 4-chain, but Live counters that with a 5-chain, and he makes the right play there. Not sure if the single was a mistake or maybe did it on purpose to change something up on his form. Oh. Live gets the single all clear. Delta gets a 2-chain all clear, but the single is actually stronger. Live is going to get a follow-up all clear too, and Delta can't really do anything. He clears the bonus, but Live has another bonus. Delta is able to make a 3-chain with the greens though. Livy's got a 3-chain with an all-clear bonus and a 4-chain actually. And Delta's in trouble, and he's just going to fill up. Well, I guess he's gonna spin pieces to the side for a little bit and then fill up. Maybe he's setting up in the middle. Delta's doing left side GTR as always. If he's got a 2 double, Delta needs a red for a counter, and he just doesn't draw the red in time. But now he's going to be able to dig to the red. Leve sent a 4 chain, but Delta just had a bigger chain there. Leve just needed a slightly bigger chain because it looked like Delta was pretty much capped at around a 6 chain, but Leve sent a little bit too early, and Delta was able to counter Leve's attack with the 6 chain. Delta sends an early 2 chain. That's kind of unusual. Delta hasn't really been doing that very much. Leve sends a 2 chain and it's going to be countered by a 2 chain. Leve now sends a 2 double and it's going to be countered by a 2 double 3 chain. So Delta is really getting the advantage on these counters. Leve's not really been able to get off a successful attack. Oh, Leve is able to dig to his main chain though, and Delta might have played his big chain too early. It looked like Leve was covered and Delta could win by just sending a big chain, but Leve was actually able to dig, and Leve does get the win with the dig. Scores 23-30 now. 7-point lead for Delta. Potential all clear start, but it doesn't quite come. Leve set up pretty powerfully. A lot of options on his field. Delta. Leve sends a small 2 chain, and Delta just goes into his main chain. Leve's going to need to convert his options into a long chain. He's trying to do it. He's going to need some colors though. Oh, he can't quite get it in time. Delta's chain stopped short. If Leve had a little bit more time, he might have been able to get to a really big chain. But he just didn't have the time. Two chain from Leve. Delta has no counter there, and everything gets covered. Leve has no immediate follow-up though, and Delta's got time to dig. Delta's got it's tough to read. Leve sends a huge 3 chain to counter Delta's 3 chain. Leve was able to read that Delta only had a 3 chain there, and there wasn't much else he could do. So Leve sent a huge 3 chain in advance, and it was good enough to beat Delta's smaller 3 chain. No yellows are coming at all, and it's more of a problem for Leve than it is for Delta. But Leve's found a way to work through it. Delta's got a 3 chain set up, 4 chain set up on the yellow. Sends it. Leve's going to counter with his main chain. Oh, maybe the yellows aren't going to connect. And it's going to stop at 8. Delta's going to send his main chain, and Delta looks to have a slightly better main chain, but it might be close. It's a lot of power at the end, and that's going to give him enough. Even the greens disappear. If Leve got a second chain off, I think he could have countered, but Leve didn't get it off in time. Score is now 24-32, and Delta has been in the lead for a long time. They're both going to clear big singles, and it's the exact same amount, so no one gets any garbage. Leve is setting up a 2 double and he sends it, but it's going to get countered by a bigger 2 double. It does feel like Leve's been attacking into counters a bit too often this match, and Delta's had the advantage for that reason. Leve manages to make a tough to read 5 chain. And Delta's going to counter with a 5 chain. And Delta actually gets the advantage. Livy's not filled up, but he doesn't have much room to do much. Livy has to get a red to fall down in the 5th column. And now he needs purples to start, and he can't get everything. Delta had an 11 chain all clear. For now, they're both just building up their main chains, but Delta has a lot of attack options, and he sends a 2 double. Livy might just have to send his main chain, but no. Oh, yes, this is going to connect to his main chain. Delta follows up with a 2 chain, but that's using up Puyo that he needs, well, for making a long chain. He's still going to get a chain off, and it's going to work pretty well. And the purples on the top are actually going to disappear, I think. Yeah, Delta actually manages to make even those purples disappear, and that's going to give him the win. I'm not sure how he was able to see how to get those purples to connect there, but he got them to connect, and that was actually the difference in that round. Liv is just going aggressive, and he's going to send the 2 double. Delta wasn't drawing the starter. Delta's digging with the 2 chain. Liv is going to receive the garbage, and the blue doesn't get covered, so he's going to send a 2 chain with that. And if Delta can connect down to the red on the left, he can start his main chain, but he's got some garbage to go through. Oh, he's drawing a lot of reds, and he can actually get there. He just needs a yellow starter, and he doesn't draw the yellow starter. Oh, it looked like he was actually going to get there. It looked like he had a really good chance, and then he just didn't get there. Left side GTR, an identical opening for both players, and they just changed it up now. Levy is setting up like 4 chain. Delta's just got his main chain connected. Levy is going to send a 2 chain, but Delta actually had a 3 chain. It was tough to read that that was a 3 chain. Livy counters with the 3 double though, and Delta counters that with the 4 chain, and now Livy makes his main chain. It's about 8. Delta needs some purples. He needs a couple purples, and then red starter. And he even added in the yellows, so he's got a really strong chain here. He's going to have a big advantage. Livy needs a huge follow-up. And it just looks like there's no way for Livy to get there. So it's now 25 to 35. It's been staying in the range of like 7 to 10 point differential, but Livy's really not pulling it back. Delta's set up tall on the left side, and now he's connecting his main chain. Livy sending a 2 double though. Delta finds a way to stop at 4, and he's got the perfect counter. Livy sends his main chain, but it's not actually a strong starter for the chain. So it's only an 8 chain. All Delta has to do is set off the chain. Yeah, it looks like he's got it. He does need a good enough tell, and I'm not sure if it's there. Oh, it's there. It's an 11 chain. Livy made a second chain, but it doesn't look like there's enough on his field to be able to counter the garbage anyway. Even if everything disappeared, it wouldn't have been enough. Delta really seems to be just in control of this match. Delta could have set up a big 2-double, but he didn't go for it. Delta sends a small single and Live counters with a 2-double. But Delta counters that with a 3-chain and Live sends a follow-up 3-chain. Delta doesn't have another follow-up of his own. And the garbage is so much that he's probably going to lose here. It's very tough to dig through all of that. So it's 26-36 now. Delta's got a big 2-chain, but he didn't actually send it. He wasn't drawing a green either. Live sends a big 2-chain, and Delta's 2-chain isn't enough to counter. Live sends a follow-up, and Delta can't dig to anything, it looks like. And Live gets the win. The game does look a bit laggy. I'm not sure if the players can fill that or not. It could just be on the spectator's screen. Oh, Delta clears a single, but gets countered by a bigger single from Live. And then they both clear 2-chains. Another 2-chain from Live. A 3-chain now from Live. And Delta finds a 2-double, draws a good sequence of pieces. But still, he's got a lot of garbage, and Live follows up again. And despite the good sequence of pieces, Delta wasn't able to counter everything, and Live got the win. 28-36 now. Still a huge lead for Delta. Delta could be setting up a 2-double, and he sends it. Live goes straight into his main chain. And it's going to be an all-clear from Live. Delta's getting exactly what he needs, but the blues might cut. And Live gets another all-clear, and it's actually going to be the all-clear bonus that decides it. And Live gets the win. The score is now 29-36. Looks like they're both going to build left side GTR in this match, and they're both going to get an all clear. Same amount, so no one has an advantage. Potential follow-up all clear, but the red doesn't come fast enough. Live sends the bonus first. It doesn't look like Delta can dig to a big chain, and Live sending a big chain of his own. It's going to be a 5-chain. Delta needs something. He's going to try and dig and show me how it's done, and that's how it's done. Delta has a 6-chain, and he was able to build to or dig to a big chain there, and that got him the win. Left side GTR again from both players. Delta's set up very defensively. He's got a 2-chain to counter the 2-chain from Live. Live sends a 3-chain, but Delta needs a blue starter. Instead, he's just going to receive the garbage for now and try to build a bigger chain. If he clears the yellows, it'll connect to his main chain, and he does clear the yellows. It's now on Live to extend and win. And Live is trying to do it. He needs a blue starter now. Delta had a 13-chain. Live the tell. It might not be enough. The blues don't disappear in the tell. So it's only a 12 chain and is barely not enough. And Delta's going to get another win. Sometimes it looks like Live might be coming back, but then Delta keeps on winning to keep the lead around 10. Right now it's a 9-point edge in Delta's favor. Hardly any blues are coming, but both players were able to adjust very well. No one sent anything at all, not even a single. Finally, Delta clears a single and it gets countered by a single from Live. Live now makes a 2-chain and Delta makes his main chain. Live is going to make his main chain. There wasn't much room to extend, but there's no red for Live. And Live is going to have to try to remake a chain in a hurry, and he can't do it. Delta's going to get another win to make it a 10-point lead. Sometimes in this opening, Live goes aggressive. And he's got a 3-chain all clear, but Delta has a 4-chain all clear. Live is going to get a line of garbage. Live sends a 2-chain with the all clear bonus. Delta receives it. I would say it looks hard for Delta to dig to a big chain, but he might be able to do it again. Live is going to receive the garbage, and he's got a 4-chain waiting as a counter. Oh, Delta's found a dig again, actually, and Delta's got a 5-chain. And once again, Delta gets the counter off and gets the big chain through the garbage. Delta's now at 40. He only needs 10 points to win the match. Live still needs 21 more points. Both left side GTR identical openings, and they change now. Delta could be setting up a 2-double. He clears a big single. Live is going to receive 2 lines of garbage almost. And Live seems to be in trouble, but he makes a 3-chain to dig, and Delta responds with a 2-triple. Just Delta's coming out ahead on every exchange pretty much. And Live is going to fill up. It's now 29-41. Really, it feels like Live just can't find an edge in this match. Whatever Live tries to do gets countered by Delta. And Delta's also been building pretty big chains, so it's not like Live can easily out-chain him. Delta's gonna send a 2-chain, and Live gets a 3-chain counter off. But Delta's got a 4-chain to counter that. Live needs a red. And Live's got a counter to that 4-chain with a 4-chain of his own. And now Delta's finally forced to play his main chain. Live's finally found an advantage. But can he convert it into a win? Delta's chain stopped at 6. Live's chain kind of cuts a little bit, but everything disappears, so it's going to be strong enough. Delta's got a purple starter, and he places it at the last second. And Delta's got a second chain that's going to counter. And Live needs a second chain. But Live is not drawing any reds at all. I think he was going for a red starter, but he just couldn't get the reds. So now it's really like anyone's game. Live starts off at 3-double. Delta counters with the 5-chain. Live might be in trouble. He needs a big chain in a hurry. He's setting a chain off, but it's not big enough. Even though Live managed to get himself to an advantage, he wasn't able to close it out and take the win, and Delta gets yet another win. It's 29-42. All clear start. Live gets it with 2 singles. Delta doesn't actually get an all clear. This might be an advantage for Live. He clears the bonus quickly, but Delta draws the reds, and Delta's going to counter all of that. It still feels like Live has a small advantage. But Delta's got a 3-double all clear, and Live has a 5-chain. So Live has a definite advantage, but Delta still has the bonus to work with. Work with if he can clear something, but he can't clear anything. Finally, a point for Live, and it's 30 to 42. Oh, Live clears a strange 3-chain. I think that might have been a misdrop, and Delta's gonna make a big chain and probably just win. I don't know if Live can recover here. He had a blue starter, but he didn't draw it in time. And he might have had enough if he drew it, but he didn't get it. Live makes an early 3-chain to get an all clear. Delta doesn't really have a good form for countering it. He can dig to a 3-chain. Actually, a 4-chain with a blue, but he doesn't draw the blue in time. Live sent the bonus really quickly. It's now 31 to 43. Liv is going to need a serious comeback if he wants to win this match. Delta's got 2 double set up, but he doesn't send it. He's changed it to a 4-chain. Liv sends his main chain in advance, though. Looks like Delta can beat it, but Delta is missing a red, unfortunately. He needed one more red there, and he would have had a bigger chain, but it wasn't there. Liv benefits from the mistake from Delta and gets the win. Liv has got 2 double set up, sends a big single and then a 2-chain in. Delta goes straight into his main chain. Liv needs yellows to start his main chain, and he draws the last yellow. Was he able to extend enough, though? I'm not sure. It's a big 6-chain and a big 7-chain, and it is enough. And Delta has a 2nd chain, but the 2nd chain isn't going to be enough. He cleared as much as he could, but that just wasn't enough. 33 to 43 now. Liv is still at a 10-point deficit, and he's running out of games to try to make it up. Liv has a big single opportunity, but it didn't come fast enough. He does send a single now, and then a 3-chain, but Delta has a yellow starter for a 5-chain. Liv needs to start his main chain probably, and he can't do that, and he can't counter. So Delta gets another win. 33 to 34 now. All clear match this time. Delta clears the bonus, and Liv clears the bonus. Liv's got a perfect lines of triplets, horizontal lines of 3 on the right side. He sends a 2 double, and Delta has no counter for this. But he can still dig to his main chain with the reds. Liv is using more Puyo in another attack, and now Liv is going to have to extend a lot. Delta's got his chain going. Liv is trying to extend, and it looks like he's not getting the colors he wants. It's a huge multi-match, but I don't think it's going to have enough power in it. And a whole bunch of Puyo disappeared, but they disappeared too early, and it wasn't a long enough chain. It's now 33 to 45. Delta clears a single, It's the first thing that's been cleared this round. Live clears a 2 triple, and Delta's unable to counter it. Powerful attack from Live gets the win this time. It's almost surprising to not see Delta counter. Delta's setting up a 3 chain, but he's probably just going to hold on to it for defense. He's got a very complicated multicolor transition, but Live's going to attack, and Delta's unable to counter again. And Live gets another win by attacking. 35 to 45 now. Two double set from Delta, and he's going to send it immediately. Live has some options to counter if he draws the right colors, and he makes a 2 double, but it's a weaker 2 double, and he's got some garbage. He's digging with a 3 chain. Delta has no counter, and he's not able to draw a counter, and Live gets another win. So short win streak now for Live, because Delta's been unable to counter some attacks. It's now an all clear match, and it's a follow-up all clear. They both get the follow-up all clear. So it's, again, like a normal all clear match, but Live actually got one block of garbage. Live is going to clear a 3 chain, Delta's going to clear a single, and then use his counter setup. Delta's not got much to work with. He's running out of space. Live is going to send what he has. And what he has is a 5 chain. Delta's going to try and counter, but the right side isn't going to connect anywhere. Looked like he almost had it, but then he didn't connect it. Maybe if I would have said there's no way for him to connect it, then he would have done it. Oh, Live's not getting the purple he needs in the 4th column, and finally it appears. Delta's setting up an aggressive form. He's probably got a bigger 2 double, and he actually sends a 3 double. Live might have attacked into a disadvantage. Live sent a 2 double, but Delta just had stuff there to make a bigger counter. Delta's now 4 points away from winning. Potential all clear start. Live is going to get the 3 double all clear, but Delta's going to draw the exact piece to make a 5 chain. If it wasn't a 5 chain, Live might have had the advantage, but with the 5 chain, it's probably Delta's advantage. Still, Live was able to set up a counter 3 chain. Delta's now trying to set up a counter of his own. The blues at the bottom don't get covered, so he's able to use them. He's going to extend on the left, though. Live is going to try to counter. It's a 5 double from Delta. Live has got a 4 double, 5 double, and it's just very slightly bigger, but Delta has more Puyo left over, so it's still undecided. Delta sends a small 2 chain, though. This isn't very powerful from Delta, so now Live might have taken the advantage. It's still not decided, though. Live sends a 3 chain. Delta counters that with a 3 chain. Oh no, it's not. It's a 4 chain, but Live is able to connect his main chain in time. But, oh yep, it's actually all going to disappear, and it's going to become a 9 chain. Delta's sending what he has. I don't know if Delta has enough, though. The purples that aren't going to connect. Does connect to the reds. And it's a nice chain, but it's not strong enough. Live had a follow-up chain there, too. Live is kind of bringing it back, but not really. It's been like this for a while. It's 38 to 46 now. Delta's set up pretty stably with the 3 or 4 chain on the greens. Livy's trying to set up a big 2 double, but would just get countered by that 4 chain. Big single from Delta, and Livy gets covered a bit. And a follow-up 3 chain from Delta. Livy's able to dig to a 3 chain of his own. And Delta can't counter it, and Livy gets another win. I almost just expected Delta to have a counter, but he didn't have one again. Delta's going into the second transition, but Livy attacks with the 3 double, and Delta's unable to draw the yellows he needs to make the counter. And Livy slowly pulling it back now. 40 to 46 is the score. Delta's building aggressively in the middle, and he just sends a 2 chain. Livy draws the reds he needs to make a 3 chain. It's not a very powerful 3 chain though, so Delta only gets a single piece of garbage, and Delta sends a 3 chain. Livy's going to counter that with a 5 chain. Delta's going to go straight into his main chain 6 chain. Livy now needs a bigger chain. He needs a red starter or a green starter. He wasn't going to draw the green in time. So he goes with the red starter, and it is going to be powerful enough. And Delta tries to counter, but Delta's 4 chain isn't going to be enough. And Livy's at a big advantage. He just needs a big chain. And it's a big 3 double. That should be good enough. And it's another win for Livy. So he's finally starting to find some momentum. 41 to 46. Livy's setting up a 2 chain in the middle, and he just sends it. Delta's got a counter 3 chain. It's not a very powerful 3 chain though, so it's not much danger to Livy. He's able to just receive the garbage and keep going. Livy's got some 2 chains set up, or a 3 chain. No, he's connected his main chain. Oh, big single from Delta that could have put Livy in trouble, but Livy was able to start his chain just in time. Delta thinks he already has enough though because the reds cut for Livy. Nice read from Delta, but the blues cut from Delta. So Delta was able to read that Livy's form cut, but he wasn't able to fix his own form and stop it from cutting too. And now it's only a 4-point difference. Delta had been playing so strongly, countering everything and just never giving up the lead, but all of a sudden, Livy's starting to make a comeback. Livy's setting up a small 2 chain, and he sends the small 2 chain. I didn't think he was going to do that, but he did. And actually, Delta wasn't able to receive it very well, and Delta can't really do anything. And Livy's follow-up attacks are going to get him the win. And it's another win for Livy. Delta's counters seem to be slipping. They had been so on point earlier in the match, and now it just seems like he's always getting garbage. Amazingly, it's only a 3-point difference. But still, Livy's behind. He's going to send a 3 double. Delta needs that counter. He's got a counter 4 chain. He's still got some counters left over, but Livy's following up with a big 2 double, and Livy actually forces some garbage onto Delta's screen. Delta builds up tall though, so he's able to dig. Livy's used up most of what he has, and he doesn't have much left. Anything else he sends is going to be like all in. Delta sends a huge 3 chain. Livy's not able to counter it, and now Livy's in trouble because Delta has so much Puyo left over and Livy has nothing. Delta sends a big single. It's not too much of a problem yet. Now Delta sends a big 2 double though, and that is a problem. And Livy's not able to dig it anymore. Delta gets to win the win to take it to 43 to 47. 3 points to win for Delta. Live needs 7 points. Potential 2-double setup for Live, but the blue didn't come. But he sends a huge single. But Delta's going to receive it and send a big 2-double. It's going to get countered by a 3-double, though. Nice counter from Live. Delta sends a small 2-chain, but he's kind of in trouble here. 3-chain from Live. And Delta is able to dig to a 4-chain, actually. Really nice dig for Delta. And then follow up 2-chain. Live's able to dig to a 5-chain, though. Delta's adding on, and now he's going to have to start a chain. He does start a 5-chain. Live now needs to find a way to connect a big chain. He needs greens. He's got a double green, and the chain ends too fast for Delta. It looked like Live might get lucky. He had a double green, but then Delta's chain just ended too quickly before Live could set off a chain. Delta's now 2 away from winning the match, and he's setting up the chain on the back, but he covers it. Big single from Live. Another big single from Live. They're adding up now, and now he sends a 3-chain. And Delta draws the exact starter to make a 3-chain of his own. If he didn't draw the right color, he probably would have lost there, but he managed to make a 3-chain. Now Live is sending a big chain. Delta's got a purple starter. And looks like Delta has the bigger chain. Oh, it's going to be a 5 doubles 8-chain. The tell is perfect. And Delta gets another win. Looks like the comeback might not be happening for Live. It's now match point for Delta. Score is 43 to 49. Live has to win 7 in a row. I feel like it's just such a daunting task to try to win 7 in a row against a very strong opponent who's beating you. Oh, 2-chain from Live, but it kind of messes up his tell. Delta's going to send a 4-chain. Live sends a 2-double into the 4-double from Delta. And this is probably going to be it. Delta's going to get the win 50 to 43.